Some of y'all with your traitor ass ancestors use the same ass fucking excuse. I have always said, and I will continue to say, that I will always fucking sacrifice one for the fucking whole.
You're listening to FAA, with Courtney. Available on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Pandora, and wherever you get your podcasts.
Good morning. It is about 5:30 in the morning on Monday, May 11th. So let's talk about it. All skinfolk and kinfolk. People use a color for a cover. Not all of our ancestors were heroes. These are all sayings, and I'm sure there are many more that I know, at least us in the Black community, Black Americans, use depending on the circles that you run with. Oh, let me tell you, when I love when someone tries to be petty with me, and I get to turn that into a learning opportunity for others. Hi, my name is Courtney. I'm also known as Sisi in Brazil. I'm not sure which podcast station of mine I'm going to put this on, but if it is not on I Taste Like Magic, it will probably end up on faafo with Courtney. Fuck around and find out with Courtney. So listen, let's just get to the nitty-gritty of things, right? Some people know me. Some people don't know me. Some people are getting to know me. If you know me, you know that I have always said, and I give people a heads up, I will befriend your shadow. If you have any intention of ever being in close proximity to me, with me, for an extended amount of time, you need to be friends with your shadow. Because the way I am wired energetically, as a psychic, as someone who has all the clairs, given my purpose as it relates to gene keys and how I'm wired when you look at my human design chart, I am truly one of those people when you hear people say, I will irritate your demons. No, I'm next level. I will activate your demons, not to save you, not to cleanse you, not to rid you of your demons. I am not someone who believes that shadow is a negative thing. I often say most people tuck their shadow away but don't realize that their shadow is their moneymaker. But because of shame, social conditioning, all the masking, all the fuck shit, your shadow is tucked away somewhere, causing you to stay sick, to stay to stay stuck, and to stay in karmic loops and in trauma bonds with people, and keep you in a place, in a state, financially, emotionally, physically, all the things that you say you want to escape from. These are things that I have talked about for years. So for those of you who are thinking that you're slick and you come and listen to my podcast and things of that nature, but don't say anything, let this be a lesson to you. I love it when someone tries to be petty with me about things that I have talked about years ago. So listen, if you know me, let me get comfortable. Again, if you know me, you know that these are all things that I have talked about before. But it's one thing to just talk about a lot of things, and that's something else that I talk about. A lot of people can read something and talk about it and really have no in real life experience or evidence. If you are familiar with human design, I am a 4-6 profile. That means that I am at 51 on that third part of the chaos of my life. I am on the rooftop. People with a 4-6 profile are kind of like designed to be teachers by after having walked are taught, not just because you went to school to get a degree or a certificate and now you want to lecture to people. Oh my God. See, these are the moments when I feel alive because I am not here for the fuck shit. And given that this is the year 2026, and I believe it's the year of the fire horse, I also believe, as it relates to Gene Keys, which is funny, is the year of closing the door. And if you remember, I walked into my bathroom one night to vacuum it recently, and there was a storm, and the door slammed, and I ended up getting stuck in the bathroom. That moment ended up being a perfect catalyst. And it wasn't until a few days later, oh my God, my pits are sweating. Yes. It wasn't until a few days later did I open an article or something. Someone sent me something and it happened to do with Gene Keys. They didn't know anything about it, might have been a newsletter, but the story about this being the year of closing the door. People can simplify that to say, oh, I'm closing the door on relationships and blah, 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 blah. For me, that feels like closing the door on trying to protect the not so innocent people because we have been taught that some people, depending on ability, age, uh, status, so whatever, deserve a certain amount of respect, patience, so on and so forth. No, because we are in a time where people do not have the time or the resources financially to be lied to be manipulated, especially by people who don't have any courage. So, back to not all skinfolk are kinfolk. People use a color for a cover. People will use their, what do you call it, their, how they identify in gender or sexuality as a protection blanket. Listen, we're all in the same boat at this point in time. So we are going to get real because I am someone that believes in energy, energetic reciprocity. And people keep putting their funky ass energy, their inconsistency, their lies by omission, they're lying overtly, they're lying by accident, their fears, their projections out into the universe and acting in ways that literally mirror and mimic the governments, regardless of what side you say you are on. And then they wonder why shit can't be right when they are doing the exact same thing, with the exception of the fact that they don't have a title or that they're sitting in an elected seat or that they are supposedly in a different country that they think is better than the country that they left. Them days are over because all of this is an energetic mirror. If you are listening to this and you are not familiar with some of the terms that I have used as it relates to the scientific, the woo-woo, doesn't matter. This is still for you because I promise you, you probably have somebody that is in your ancestral line who sold out a revolution or a fucking rebellion. Let's be fucking honest about this right now, right? Because everybody wants to think that our ancestors are all the same. All of our ancestors are not the same. Who are the descendants of the people that sold our people out? How about that? Where are y'all motherfuckers at who keep hiding? Here's what I know. Energetically, I can sense it. For years, I have been talking about how I smell fucking fear. Period. Point fucking blank. So what we're not going to do is allow people to hide behind their financial status, hide behind their social status, hide behind their, oh, I'm part of this disenfranchised demographic. That's not what we're going to do because I promise you, some of y'all with your traitor ass ancestors use the same ass fucking excuse. I have always said, and I will continue to say, that I will always fucking sacrifice one for the fucking whole because 400, 500 more years of this shit ain't gonna happen. At least not on my watch while I am alive. Period. So, in closing, I recently had someone say to me in response to something that I was saying that they are just trying to retire, right? People have put in their time. They don't want to be fucking bothered. Cool. I get that. I didn't come from that people. I gave them an example of someone up my ancestral line who was very famous, and he was carried into battle at almost 100 years old. Was not killed in battle, but was killed after he was captured and shot in the back by a coward. Now, with that being said, I want to say one last thing. I'm going to tell you a story. So, here in Brazil, a lot of people, especially Americans, will come and hire a housekeeper. Cool, no problem. I've only hired a housekeeper once. And one day when I was finding myself, and that was because I needed a deep clean right after I moved into my apartment. One day, as I was frustrated and cleaning, because you are always cleaning here, and I'm going to get back to that in a little while because that ties into when people love to sit and say, oh, Brazilians, even Americans who get here, sit here and say that same damn shit, but never wonder why people say they shower 3 times a day. Because I promise you, the Brazilians who work hard every day that are not relying on a maid are not showering 3 times a day by default, typically. But let's just get back to the logistics of it. Why are people having to shower 3 times a day? And this is another perfect example how people just be saying shit, whether or not, because people just have no critical thinking skills. But I'm going to come back to that. So, with that being said, I was cleaning and got a download one day. Well, I started getting a bunch of downloads. If you don't know what a download is, that is kind of like when someone says, oh, I heard God talking to me, or whatever you want to call it, universe, ancestors, or whatever. You just kind of start getting these little insights or whatever. It dawned on me that my ancestors have been telling me, no, don't get a housekeeper because there's something that you need to hear, feel, and experience. After a while, I realized that for ages, the housekeepers are the ones that have not been seen, but heard all the shit, the gossip, the planning, the strategy to keep Black folk oppressed. I'd forgotten about this conversation until a couple of days ago when I turned on the television. And it was like one of those afternoon shows here, which is interesting because when you watch afternoon television here, you'll see these shows that are kind of set back off in plantation times or whatever, right? But then they'll have people that you know was enslaved and working on a plantation, like skipping down the street as if everything was perfect and happy. This particular show was showing a woman serving a family, a wealthy white family, and they were talking about things that could have probably gotten us all out of this fucking situation a long time ago, right? If it weren't for people like the people that I'm fucking dealing with right now. How about that? But anyway, and it was as if even though she's over their shoulder, she's putting food on the table, she's giving them water and drink and standing off in the side, they do not see her, but she hears everything. Everything. Now, what do you do with that information when you have it? Here's the funny fucking part. After I got that download and I realized that I can tap into another timeline of what our ancestors heard, because we like to say that, oh, we take on our ancestors, gifts and skills, and a lot of people want to brag about, oh, my ancestor, was this, and some of y'all ancestors was pussies. Let's just tell it like it is or whatever, right? Period. Point blank. Now, I shared that with someone that I am no longer friends with. And they were like, oh yeah, I can see that, and blah, 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 blah. And we're kind of like in agreement or whatever. But then the next thing I know, they were doing something completely opposite of what they had said that they understood and confirmed and believed in what I just said. I'm going to go deeper into this and how this relates to human design and open centers, but I actually touched on it yesterday in a podcast that I did that I haven't uploaded yet, and I don't know which is going to come first, but this goes back to how someone is influenced, by whom they are influenced. And yes, a lie is still a lie, but it wasn't until I was laying there this morning after hanging out with some people yesterday and noticing how energies were different with the people that I was hanging out with yesterday. And I've been really wondering, I'm like, Yo, of all the people that I didn't think would betray me, this person betrayed me. But even in instances when that person was still here in Brazil and around me and other people, they would change. You know how we talk about code switching? That was the thing. I could literally talk to her about something. We get around certain people and they just completely turn into a different fucking person. And I'm laughing at myself now because I was more in a space of like trying to figure out why, but I wasn't in thinking terms of like the woo woo stuff, right? The open centers and how much someone allows someone else to influence them. Just an FYI, I'm talking my shit because if you are into human design, astrology, and all the things, and even if you're not, I don't really fucking care. But if you are, I am wired where I have very little influence. Not only that, is the way that I was raised. My parents didn't try to put me in a box. I didn't experience any childhood trauma that I need to heal and get over. I was allowed, I was raised in an environment around people, around elders, around safety systems and safety nets, and a community that protected my fucking light. How many of y'all motherfuckers can say that? Especially those of you listening to this shit right now who have tried to be petty with me and sabotage me. So, back to those who say they feel like they have earned a right to just keep running and hiding and not addressing anything, and that you did your time in bondage or 30 years in corporate or whatever the fuck you want to call it. We all had free will. You might have an excuse, but again, you don't know my fucking story. And with that, I intentionally made a choice because there were six. I saw the writing on the wall 20 fucking years ago. I have a child. I could have taken the easy route and stayed in corporate America, had the little, I lived in the gated community with the fucking golf course on the water. Speaking of water, here's another one for you, right? So, for those of you who know and are familiar with human design, I am a shores person. Yesterday, I recorded a podcast about not all beaches are equal. I have always just serendipitously ended up living by a beach or the trail or that natural boundary that causes me to have less energetic influence. Therefore, I am in environments that are not opposing me as much. So I am able to accelerate and tap into my magic much more than many other fucking people. Let's break it all down because if you're going to try to fucking come for me, what is your past? What is your environment? Who were your cowardly ass ancestors? Where are you at? I was looking at something the other day and I was like, yo, I've never really been good at building large communities. That is not my forte. I can build and create loyal and very grounded communities and spaces. And I have always said this as someone who is a catalyst. It doesn't matter the outcome as long as I get energy moving, whether it's getting you to laugh or whether it's getting you to cry or whether it's getting you to want to cuss me out and come up with a strategy and try to get back at me or seek revenge on me. It doesn't fucking matter. I am here to spark something in people to get energy moving. All energy is energy. It's not a good, it's not a bad, it's not a positive, it's not a negative. And when I do what I'm fucking supposed to do while I am here, regardless of what fucking people think about me and how they feel about how I do it, I end up getting paid, period, by the universe, which then pisses people off even more. And then they want to go in harder. And then I get paid more. What does fucking paid look like? There are people on these platforms who they call themselves content creators, right? So that means you got to post consistently. You got to edit. You always got to be performing for somebody, something, some fucking algorithm or whatever. And many of them still work for full-time jobs. Many of them are still relying on system checks by the government. People are still relying on child support and alimony, on some type of fucking system outside of themselves, because there's very few people who can actually financially support themselves as content creators. Now, most people, mere mortals, will look at them and say, oh, Courtney Sisi in Brazil is over here and she's talking about all of this, but she only has 200, 300 or whatever followers or whatever, right? Okay, bet, no problem. Stay with me. And then they'll look at someone else that maybe has shit, I don't know, let's just say 1 million to keep it 100, right? Yet, again, what's happening in the background is they're barely living and barely surviving. I peeked in on my Facebook memories the other day, and it was interesting because when I went back, I started looking at different people and things of that nature. And I was like, yo, even all of these people who were now claiming to be content creators and so on and so forth, yo, y'all motherfuckers are still stuck in the same fucking cycle. Literally, same background, ain't moved, ain't done anything differently. Even though you say you want something fucking different, your life looks exactly the same as it did 10, 15, 20 years ago. Their lives looks exactly the same it did 10, 15, 20 years ago. Now, this would not be a problem except for the fact these are the same mofos who were sitting there teaching people, talking about getting out of the matrix, doing something different. You could talk about that shit all day long. It could sound great. You can grow your platform because sometimes people like to be lied to. Most people like to be lied to and gaslit because why? They grew up in toxic fucking environments where they were raised by adults who didn't do anything but lie, steal, and cheat. And for the people who then like to brag about when it's convenient for them to be a Black American, yet at the same time, in another breath, in a different group, want to brag about being first time, first generation here or not here in the United States. And what's your fucking point? So what have you contributed to the liberation of Black Americans, but yet you want to benefit from it at the same fucking time? Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking it and I'm not being a bigot about it, but I want to bring something to the light, how that's hypocrisy, because what did your people do in the country that you want to brag about when it sounds exotic and sexy and you want to impress people? What did your people do in your country, on your island, to liberate those people? Right? I've brought this up before. Listen, y'all ended up on those islands on fucking boats just like the fucking rest of us or whatever. There were indigenous people there before. Many of y'all don't know shit about them people, but real quick to identify and say, you know that your white ancestors are. And until somebody like me brings it to your attention, how quickly you will attach yourself to your white ancestors. Because I have asked, well, what do you know about your Black ancestors? Do you have any connections to the indigenous people on the island that I'm sure your Black ancestors made it with? No, I have no idea. I don't know. I never really thought about it. The paperwork I hear all of that. Then fucking spend time trying to research it, but at the very least, pause for a moment and catch yourself on how quickly you try to associate yourself in proximity to the white ancestors in your fucking family, because many of them, I have some too, enslaved. Mary Jo, Mary Lou, Mary. So what we're not going to do this year is we're not going to continue with the fuck shit and talking around in circles. So if you come into my circle, if you have been into my circle and you have been into my space and I already gave you a fucking warning, you will be the fucking example. Because we have already wasted too much fucking time coddling people's fucking emotions, keeping their little dirty ass fucking secrets when they already have been given a warning. And then people want to turn around and go and preach to other people, not from experience, not from anything that they've actually experienced, but regurgitating the same ass information that ain't got anybody free. How about that? So I'm a 4/6, but not only am I a 4/6, I am less than 1% of the population when it comes to how I am wired. I'm going to calm down. I'm going to come back and I'll explain what that looks like and how that means and what that means. And, excuse me, for sweaty pits. If you are offended by any of that, I don't care. Fuck you too. Because these are things that Tribe and I have talked about for many years as it relates to reading energy. And when you know that energy is actually moving, half of y'all think you're alive just because you're breathing and you're able to walk to the store or the mailbox. You ain't. I smell fear. And that is for a reason. It is not to take advantage of people. It is not to attack people. I am here to help liberate people. And often we can't do that because people are given the same as cookie cutter solutions and explanations. And let me tell you something else. For many years, I have talked about these fucking psychologists, therapists, and counselors, and so on and so forth. Yo, they got their own fucking issues too, especially if they're practicing Western medicine. They have no incentive to assist someone in actually getting better because they don't get paid unless people keep showing up. I got a little sidetracked. So let me just go back to all of these people following all of these influencers. All these influencers are the same people who get upset, and just everyday people and just mere mortals who get upset. Because then if they know me and they see me, because I am always operating and speaking from a place of truth and authenticity to me, and I am in alignment to who I say I am and what I am doing, and I move through this world with integrity to who I am and why I'm here and how I'm wired, honoring my ancestors. So when I'm in a room, especially with a bunch of Black people, and they talk about our ancestors, I have no qualms about saying, nah, all of our ancestors are not the same. And the quicker we can realize that, the quicker we could probably get free. Because then some more people would stop relying on their fucking coward ass traitor ancestors and start actually doing something instead of relying exclusively on the fucking legacy and the backs and the shoulders of their so-called ancestors. So when things come to me easily, whether it's property, money, relationships, a car that many people work 20, 30, 40, 50 years for, guess what happens? People get mad salty, they get petty, they get jealous, they get envious. Neptune too, so the vision comes harder. I don't just read you. Because God forbid, oh my God, why doesn't she have to work for it? Why? And I've heard this. Why does it come to her so easily? You think about that. You ask God that. You ask your ancestors that. Whoever you pray to, believe in. And where is that coming from? How many of your ancestors felt the same way about somebody else years, 300, 200 years ago? Somebody was probably barefoot, hairy, dirty, whatever, just like the next person. And I promise you there was somebody on the plantation still mad and salty about them and tried to figure out a way how to get even. Well, why does she get an extra piece of chitlin? Like dumb shit. That shit still happens to this day.